Hi, we're here for the 30 by 30 Cohort 2 info session. I'm joined with Nicole Hopkins. I'm Peter Goldsworthy. I am the GM of Startups for LaunchVic, and I look after all the startup founders and startups in Victoria, helping them through their scaling journey, either with programs that we build like 30 by 30 or programs that we fund and support. So Nicole, do you want to introduce yourself first?
Yeah, thanks, Pete. I'm Nick. You can call me Nick Hopkins, and I am an HR operator with about 15 years experience. The last decade of that has been spent in California working with a variety of startups, including Dollar Shave Club, which was acquired by Unilever for $1 billion, a smaller fintech startup called PeerStreet, handling mortgage debt marketplaces, and most recently Webflow. When I joined, I was Series A, 200, 300 million valuation, and we had about 100 people there leading the people function and scaling that. We grew to Series C, about 600 employees and a $4 billion valuation. So I've had a lot of learnings during that time, and I've taken that back with me to Sydney, which is where I'm based now, working with a few smaller stage startups and scale ups to help them hopefully reach that unicorn status.
And I'll add that you've also been an integral part of 30 by 30 in cohort 1 as a HR facilitator, and will be with us again in cohort 2 and many cohorts to come, hopefully. But you also coached a fair few of the teams outside of the program and continued to engage with them, which is great. So today we want to share a little bit about what cohort 2 is going to entail, and so that anybody who's thinking of applying can learn more about the program. So, Nick, as you mentioned, you've sort of been at that tipping point where, you're a scale up and you're on that trajectory to become a unicorn. And I wanted you to sort of, share what are the biggest things that either trip up HR leaders or any of these sort of HR ops or finance leaders? What trips them up the most?
Yeah, not knowing things that are going to break, right? And I think you could sum it up almost in every function that way. So often things work really well at the beginning. I'll just take an example for founders, their org design. You don't even have to think about it. You hire your key folks, your key functions, you have 5 or 6 direct reports in each of those functions and things work. So why would you give it a second thought? And then you grow and you grow and you realize decisions are taking longer. You have decision-making fatigue as a founder. You're ping-ponging your decisions because there's just too many inputs, and you realize, oh, org design's a thing I should probably focus on now. And so I think looking at that, that's just one example, but everything will break. And HR leaders who aren't familiar with that kind of environment have to be prepared for what's around the corner. And so that requires a bit of humility and admitting you don't know what you don't know, and then seeking out people who've learned through trial and error before to be able to know when to start thinking about certain things and get ahead of some of those tension points that happen during scale.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. And it came up in cohort 1 a lot. And that's one of the deliberate reasons we chose, the ops, HR and finance leaders together. Because if you're talking org design and growth and scale, you need the finance leader at the table as well as the CEO to make those decisions and really, plan through that future org design. So yeah. The other thing that I sort of noticed in the ops stream, and I was facilitating that in cohort 1, is that what got the companies to where they are, and obviously all of cohort 1, super high growth companies, and they've done the unthinkable. They've become a hit basically, but what got them there is not necessarily what's going to get them to where they need to get to, and it's at what we hope, that unicorn status. And really having a team and having an ops strategy arm that can focus on the ways of working and looking at things across the organization. And it could be something like org design, it could be something to do with finance and boring stuff like expenses, and just making that more efficient, because the more things you can unlock as a manager and not have to look over every minute detail, that's how you unlock scale. So you can focus on the more creative things, the things that become multipliers, right? I think the other thing that we've just been reflecting a bit and doing retrospectives after cohort 1, and I wanted to sort of share with the audience what did we learn from cohort 1, and what does that mean for cohort 2? What are those sort of 2 or 3 things that are going to change in the program?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel so happy that we got so much feedback throughout. I feel like from month 1 to 4, every month we had more valuable feedback to integrate into the curriculum and how we roll things out. And I think one thing that surprised me, and I thought we'd have to put more emphasis on, was the community building aspect. But everybody in cohort 1 came in and they were just so eyes wide open and eager to get to know each other and build that community, that it quickly transitioned to, great, I want to absorb all this knowledge, and then how do I make it sticky and apply it to what I'm doing today, given we're in a variety of different industries and different size and scale. And so I'm excited to tailor cohort 2 more towards what is their real-time need, where are they at their size and scale, and what are those tangible takeaways, whether they're templates, as simple as that sounds, or getting more time with a particular mentor to work through some of the real-time challenges that they have going on.
Yeah, I think my key learning was that all the teams had really bold long-term goals or long-term vision of where they wanted to get to, and we were excited about how big an impact that's going to have, and very diverse teams, obviously. But the thing that we've learned that we need to focus on a bit more in cohort 2 is helping them break that down into more digestible, shorter term stretch goals, so they can, the building blocks of what they're going to need to then hit that long-term goal. And it's not just building it, teams did have short-term goals, but how do you get the team aligned around that? How do you get the executives and the rest of the team cascading that down to make sure everyone's moving in the same direction? Which, as you hinted earlier, related to org design, when you have 50 people versus 500, getting everyone to march in the same direction, it's a totally different amount of effort required. So that's what I'm excited for cohort 2, is having a little bit more time spent with the mentors and the execs, and bringing the CEOs in a little bit more to be involved in that, because again, alignment, it's got to start from the top. But I wanted to ask you, what are you most excited about what's coming up in cohort 2?
Yeah, I think for me, what I'm most excited about is bringing back some of the mentors who were part of cohort 1. And so thinking about the execs who went through the program and have had so much valuable learning, and you see the success of their businesses growing over the past few months, even since the program ended, I can't wait to bring them back in to help cohort 2 learn from them. So going back to growing the ecosystem and creating mentors through this program, I'm excited to see what they'll bring.
Yeah, indeed. Any tips for the execs that are thinking of applying to cohort 2?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say for any exec who's in any startup, time is always finite, right? And so it's a question of, where am I spending my energy and time? And so my tip would be, if you join the program, give it the adequate time it needs, because there's so many applicable learnings that you can bring back. But it's not a business school program where you can drop in, drop out. Maybe I'll check that theory out in 5 years. Like, this is real time going to help you get to that next phase. And while it seems like there's so many fire drills day to day, these are the things that proactively will help you get ahead of those fire drills that are down the line.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I would add to that just think about, who in the team, like if you've got HR leaders and you sort of divide a little bit, maybe recruitment culture or things like that, you could have more than one exec from each function come along, with a restriction, of course. You can't have 50 people turning up. We don't have enough space for that. But you should really think about who should be around the table, and having all the leaders that are involved in that function involved. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to cohort 2, really looking forward to having you involved again. And to anyone who is thinking of applying, EOIs are open until 17th of February. The link will be posted within this video just after this. So thank you, Nicole.
Thanks, Pete.